Twinkle, twinkle, little star, He's alive!
Welcome to where the weird ones are.
Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out.
Powerful figures in Hollywood as well as powerful politicians who are in fact not human. They're reptiles or they're lizards or perhaps extraterrestrials.
I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.
Let's get weird.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. My name is Kevin, but you probably already knew that, and if you didn't, now you do. Today's episode is with Kaydra. She is the host of Perplexity, a mystery podcast where she talks all about mysterious things. That's true crime, paranormal, cryptids, cults, conspiracies, whole bunch of shit. It's a really good podcast. I highly recommend it. You should definitely go check it out. Number one, she's amazing. She's friendly, she's kind, she is a sweetheart, and I know I say that about a lot of the people that I have on, but she definitely is that. And I really enjoy her podcast, and I think you will as well. But with that being said, quick shout out to the sponsor, Flavors of the Forest, Bigfoot's Breath Raw Garlic Dust. Go get you some at flavorsforest.com. You can also follow them on Instagram at flavorsforest. They have cranberry, lion's mane, ginger, horseradish, and they also have a spicy one, which I have the spicy one right here. Go check them out. It's fucking delicious. Very potent, a lot better than any other garlic dust that you are gonna get at any store. So highly recommend them. Fantastic dudes, and they definitely deserve the support. So again, that's flavorsforest.com, and you can get yourself a couple bottles. And you're not gonna regret it. It is delicious. Weird Java in the Morning is on the YouTube channel every morning, every Sunday morning live at 9 a.m., 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern. Me and my buddy David. It's technically a variety show. We do a missing person segment, true crime segment, movie quote segment, Florida Man segment, this day in history segment. Oh, fucking what other we do creepy video of the week. We do news occasionally. So it's a good time. I'm also gonna be putting the audio out um as its own podcast. So look for that. It should be out on all the same platforms that where the weird ones are is. So um yeah. I really hope you guys enjoy today's episode. It was awesome to chat with her. Honestly, I could have chatted with her until frickin' midnight, and it would have been a good time. I just know it. So I'm definitely gonna have her back on to talk about some. Maybe we'll get her to conversate with us about a conspiracy that she's has found interesting. I don't believe in all conspiracies, but I do think conspiracies are super interesting to talk about. Um, Other than that, I will be at 14 Fest on May 17th. I still haven't signed up for it, but I'm going to shortly. Um, and it's right here in Sanford, Maine at the Memorial Gym. I hope to see you guys out over there. If not, that's totally cool. I mean, obviously, I mean, if you're in the area, dope. if you're not in the area, I wouldn't expect you to fucking come all the way up here. So, but anywho, I think that's pretty much all I have to talk to you guys about. But I just want to stress this like very clearly. You could have been a different person yesterday, and today you're making moves to become somebody else. Somebody who's going to pull you back into the old person that you used to be because that's where they fit you. And they're, however they think about you is the old you. I mean, just get those people out of the way. Um, we're, we're all just trying to be better every day. Or at least I hope everybody is, anyways. Just trying to be a better version of ourselves every single day. So don't fall back into that same old box. Okay. Also, if you are experiencing any kind of mental distress, please dial 988 here in the US. It is the suicide prevention hotline. They are equipped with ways to help you out if you need any kind of help. And it's not just if you're having thoughts of suicide, it's really just a mental distress. They're there to help, so please utilize that because you deserve to be here. And doing that to yourself, it only transfers your trauma to somebody else. And I know you don't want that. So please stay another day. You can quit when I quit. With that being said, please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. I would greatly appreciate it. It means a lot to me. If your catcher doesn't allow you to leave a review, please leave one on the website where the weird ones are podcast.com. There you can also get some merch like this hoodie, the t-shirt behind me. I have hats. I have a whole bunch of different t-shirt designs. Um, I have supplements, coffee, and motherfucking hot sauce here, right here. We got the bottle right there. So, anywho, hope you guys have a good, blessed day. And remember, question everything and stay weird.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Weird. Get weird.
Hey, this is Rochelle Stratton, and you are listening to Kevin with Where the Weird Ones Are. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode. So happy to have you here. Today we have Kaydra from it's a mouthful and I always mess it up. Perplexity, a mystery podcast. It's an amazing podcast. You should definitely check it out. But Kaydra, thank you for being here. I'm so happy to have you here.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here. And you're not the first person to say the podcast name is a mouthful. So you did a good job.
Thank you. Thank you. I always every time I try and talk to somebody like my girlfriend or somebody else that's not really a part of the community that we're a part of, I always say it incorrectly. So I like literally before you came on, I said it like 5 times just to make sure that I said it correctly because they're always like, "What podcast did you say?" Looked it up, but you didn't. I can't find it, and I'm just like, oh, and then I have to go to your profile to read it, or I'll have to send them the link because I say podcast names backwards all the time, and yours is one of them for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, and like I said, you are not the first person to tell me that. So I'm like, maybe I need to simplify the name a little bit. I have some really good friends that have a podcast and they've talked about me on their show before, but they always say Perplexity Mysteries Podcast, which I mean is close enough. But there's definitely people that mess it up, but it's all good.
So one of the biggest questions that I love asking, especially right off in the beginning, is what led you to want to start this podcast within the genre that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work in a very different environment. I work in healthcare. I work in hospitals as a medical speech pathologist, and it's very like numbers driven, logic. It flexes my left brain a lot if you think that way, like, you know, more logic. And I've always like I grew up in the arts and was a very creative person, but I also really like science. So I like this because I feel like I have my feet in both worlds now, and I can keep flexing that creative side and like my sense of childlike wonder, you know, and just ask random crazy questions and then just learn weird shit every week, you know? Like who doesn't want to do that? So
Yeah.
yeah. I've always liked podcasts, and they kind of blew up over like the last 5-10 years. I liked acting growing up, but it's obviously hard to break into things like that. And so there was just a
Sure.
point in my career where I felt really burned out. It was around COVID where I just started wondering like what would be a hobby, what could I do? And then by the time it was 2022, I was just like over it. And yeah, within the span of 48 hours, I just decided I was going to do a podcast without having any idea what to expect, how it worked. Like I knew I just had a mic. And I knew that I wanted to do mysteries because I've always loved mysteries, and I didn't want to just put myself in one box. Like I didn't want to just do true crime. I wanted to be able to I didn't have a full idea of what I wanted the show to look like. So I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
have more of an open option, and it worked out really well.
It does. It's amazing. You cover like you said, true crime. You do cults. You do cryptid and paranormal stuff. Like it's everything that I like to listen to. It all gets covered within your podcast. So it's an awesome listen, and I highly implore people to go. Anybody listening, the probably two people that listen to this show, go check out hers because it's great, and she's a wonderful person too. Her voice is very like your voice is fantastic to listen to. Like your cadence is perfect. There's no like too much. There's not too much pausing and stuff. So it's like it's great.
Oh, thank
I
you.
really enjoy it.
Some of that's
You're
come
welcome.
down to
You're welcome.
editing too. When I first started recording, I, again, didn't know how anything worked. And I had some nice friends who gave me very nice constructive criticism. And one of the first things they said was, your stories are great, but you don't sound confident and you're pausing for too long. And so I learned like, okay, edit out the
Yeah.
pauses and just be confident in your delivery, which is easier said than done. I usually have to like review my script to make sure that I like really know what I'm talking about, or you can still kind of tell I'm not confident. But yeah, it's been so much fun, and now it's coming up on 2 years, which is crazy. Or
Wow.
sorry, coming up on, let's see, December, coming up on 2.5 years. Yeah. So yeah, it's wild. I don't know how we just keep pumping them out week after week. And I mean, you can attest to that too, just having over
Mhm.
100 episodes in your pocket. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. I like me personally, never thought that it was gonna end up going this far. Like I wanted it to, obviously, but I was like, I feel like the hardest part is getting people because like I want to have conversation. So I'm like, I feel like the hardest part is gonna be getting people to come on the show. I was like,
Mm.
maybe I'll have to do solo episodes. And like you and a lot of people that when they start off doing solo episodes, I sucked at it. I paused a lot too, and the editing was ridiculous for it, and I was just like, I don't know if I can do that too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And luckily, I've been pretty fortunate to be able to have a pretty consistent base of people that are interested in talking about conspiracies, paranormal, their experiences with weird stuff and telling stories and all that. So I've been pretty lucky in that aspect, and some listeners have reached out to. So I'm very fortunate that it's been able to continue. And I was doing, which was crazy to me, that looking back on it now, I was doing 2 episodes a week,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and then sometimes 3 because the Conspiracy Tuesdays were on Tuesdays, and then my normal episode was Wednesday, and then I would do another episode on a release on Friday. So I was talking to people almost like 3-4 times a night, 3 to 4 times a week.
Yeah, wow.
So and it got ridiculous. And then once I just had a baby last year, so she'll be a year this May.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And I was sitting there, and at first during like the parental leave, the paternity leave, whatever it's called, um, it wasn't that bad.
Mm.
But then once I started working, I was like, this is ridiculous. I was like, I don't know if I can keep this up. Like I'm losing time with the baby.
Yeah.
Like,
Precious
I'm like, this is
time.
crazy. So yeah, exactly. So now I moved it to, I only record Friday nights, and I'll edit it like the on Saturday and put it out and have it ready for Wednesday. So it seems to work out perfectly. And that gives me plenty of time because my older kids are teenagers, so they don't even get up on Saturdays until like 10, 11 o'clock. So
Yeah.
I have plenty of time in the morning to for the editing and all that stuff. So,
I love that.
but
That's
I hear
great.
that you recently got engaged as well too.
I did. Yes, we're wedding planning right now.
Nice. How's that going?
Oh, it's expensive. Honestly,
Yeah.
people ask me that all the time, and I've been saying lately, and I really believe this. It's not, at least right now, it's not the planning that is stressful. It is just how expensive
Mm-hmm.
everything is, and just having to like space out when to pay for things, because everything's like a couple grand here, a couple grand there. And I mean, that's a lot. So I was just kind of stupid about it when we first got engaged. My fiance too, we were both like, "Oh yeah, surely we can do a wedding with 15K." And no, the average price of a wedding in Texas now is like 30 grand, and it's just
Oh
insane.
wow.
I understand now why people just go to the courthouse or go to Vegas and elope, because it's ridiculous, the prices of everything. But the planning's been great. We have like a really nice planner, and one of my friends is going to do the photography for us. We're saving some money on
Oh
flowers. My
nice.
mom's going to make the flowers. So trying to save money where we can. And yeah, we're excited. It's end of October, so we still got plenty of time.
Yeah. It's it's funny when you're planning something that big, how fast it comes up too. Like with all 3 of my kids too. Like, oh, we're pregnant, and then all of a sudden they're in my hands. I'm like, where the fuck did those 9 months go? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying that now, but I feel like when the wedding happens, I'm gonna be like, where did the last 8 months go? This is insane.
Oh man. So um, what? So you're interested in mysteries and stuff. Did you ever experience anything mysterious, or possibly, actually, you know what would be a better question is, have you ever experienced anything paranormal-esque
Yes.
in your life?
Yes. I have had a lot of experiences, but they were all when I was younger. So that's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. I know like a lot of people have experiences in their childhood, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of people in like our podcasting circle, they continue to have experiences. I have not had any since I was a kid, but I had a lot packed into those years. So yeah, I've got stories for sure.
Interesting. I've experienced there was a period of time where I wasn't experiencing anything. It was especially when I was with my ex, and I don't know if it was that our like relationship dynamic where I just was so shut off because I was so worried about her thoughts and about her trying to keep her happy
Yeah.
to where I wasn't noticing things. But as soon as we were apart, I started experiencing again within the first year of us separating.
Oh, interesting.
But I don't know if you're familiar with her, JJ Rose. She's a psychic medium that is in has been in circulating through other podcasts and stuff. And
No.
I know David's close to her. I know you don't know David very well, but
Mhm.
I got in contact with her, and she visited here remotely,
Hmm.
and then ever since she's been here, I haven't had anything.
Oh, wow.
So it's really weird.
That's fascinating. I
I mean,
love
it's cool.
psychics. That's one of the most like
Yeah, me too.
interesting things to me, topics that I've researched. I've done a decent amount of research on psychics because that's one of my favorite things is just that concept between like the link between the spiritual realm and our brains. So
Hmm.
I find that so fascinating. I follow Tyler Henry a lot, that really famous psychic who reads celebrities. I find him
Yeah,
super interesting.
yeah. I think there's like some kind of like science to it too. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think they've done some like studies on it and stuff. And if you believe in conspiracies, the government has a whole like CIA operation on
Mhm.
psychic mediums and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, but I always come back to this, the fact that we only like operate off of 5% of our brains. Like imagine what we could do if we started gaining the capability of using the rest of it.
Right. Yeah, there's one of my favorite talks that I ever did with another show. It's one of Andy Tate's new shows, not the controversial Andrew Tate, the other one. Um it's called Cryptic Encounters, and we talked for like an hour. I think the episode's called Tapping into the Unknown, but we talked about this a lot, and I read a couple of like research studies and put this whole thing together. So it's a really good conversation, but we talk about this exact thing and like what the research says about psychics, and they like studied their brains and how they look different and how it makes sense with what neurologists know about like what different parts of the brain do, and it's very very fascinating.
Yeah. There's Man, I could go on about psychics all day. I've had readings by them. I mean, some of them aren't 100%, but there's things that they'll say where I'm just like, "What the fuck? Like, how the hell did you know that?"
Sure,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? But I mean, they're not 100% on 100% of the time, but they are accurate. And I mean, there's charlatans out there.
Of
It's
course.
pretty easy to read people for certain things sometimes, but um, yeah, no, I sometimes I wish I was psychic. I know that we all have intuitive capabilities
Mhm.
where like we get those gut feelings and stuff like that. But I find all of that fascinating. Um, and a lot of it goes hand in hand with paranormal activity too. Like a lot of mediums and stuff have experienced like paranormal activity in their childhood, and then they're like, "Hey, I can do this thing where I can talk to people in the other realm, in the spirit realm, and relay messages." And I don't know, it's fascinating. I've seen one full body apparition, but well, I guess it wouldn't be considered full body because because he was see through and there was no face.
Okay.
But like there was an actual body there. So I've always wanted to see like a physical ghost, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
like they look real. And I know Alicia from Twisted and Uncorked, she's seen a little boy that
Ugh.
she thought that was like a real person.
She has
And
creepy
it's
stories. Yeah.
yeah, she does. Yeah, she does. Um, so out of the stories that you have from your childhood, are any of them like seeing a apparition?
Yeah, so I mean this could be up to interpretation obviously, but I have two.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the one that I've told the most first, but it's like probably my favorite story. So I was probably, I think in high school, my sister, it's just me and my sister at home. My sister's like 4 years younger than me. She was outside one day playing with our neighbor in their front yard, and they had this rope swing, and he was like spinning her around and around and around. And basically, her hair got caught in the rope while he was spinning her, and the rope was like cinching up and it snapped. Well, she was like
Oh
hanging
shit.
from, yeah, so she's hanging from this tree by her hair. And I was in the backyard with my friend and I heard her like screaming and freaking out across the street. So I looked over and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. I see Carlisa hanging there. So I run inside the house. I was like explaining to my parents what happened really quick. And then within maybe like 30 seconds, me, my parents, some friends from their church that were over, we're all across the street with her. So within those 30 seconds of me running from the backyard to the front, this woman had appeared. And our neighborhood is pretty small. We see like the same people walking around all the time. None of us had ever seen her before. But she was there. She had like a baby stroller and she just had the baby off to the side and she was supporting my sister's weight on her shoulders, just kind of helping get the weight off of her hair until we could cut her down. She didn't say anything to us. But I remember she was like a short Hispanic looking woman, had like short dark hair. She had a black and white striped t-shirt on. And as soon as my parents got there, I think it was my dad who looked at her and was like, thank you so much. You know, we've got her. And the second he said that, 1 second she was there, the next second she was just gone. The baby stroller, gone.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I've thought about it so many times. We lived in that house for many, many years, walked those streets over and over. It doesn't make sense because where our house is situated, she couldn't have just gone away that quickly. It's not like we were on a corner and she could just,
Mhm.
or go through this little alleyway or something. Like she vanished and we never saw her again. The other really creepy thing about it is that after that happened, we were all in the house just talking about, like, oh, thank God that woman was there. And somehow her physical appearance came up. Me, my mom, my sister, my dad, we all said she was female, but we all had completely different physical descriptions of her. So
No
it
way.
was really creepy because it was just like, okay. And I've heard things like this before where one
Mhm.
person sees maybe an apparition, another person sees a full body apparition. So it was like we were all seeing this paranormal entity, but our brains were registering her differently. I don't know. So it's really weird to me. But my sister's had a couple of like really close calls. And so we've always kind of joked that that's her guardian angel. So yeah.
That's wild. That's a wild story. Does your neighborhood have like do you know of any passings of a woman and a baby or a woman that had a baby at all?
No, but that's a good point. I have like looked before of just like if there were any well-known true crime stories in my hometown,
Yeah.
but that would be good to see as if there's any paranormal sightings of a woman with a baby or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be super. And did she look like she was dressed for your time?
Yeah, no, and
Like with the striped shirt looked like modern?
yeah, she looked modern. It was full body, like looked completely normal. But thinking back, that was the one weird thing is that she didn't say anything to us. And
Yeah.
I've heard that before with different paranormal encounters is that they don't speak. But
Mhm.
yeah, wild. So there was that encounter. And then when I was younger, and I always preface this by saying I really don't know what to make of this story. This is like the weirdest, most unexplained thing that's ever happened to me. But it's another full body apparition story. So when we were at church one night, it was me, my sister, I think some cousins, and a bunch of people from the church, including my parents. We were all up there at night because a tornado was coming. And a lot of times when there's natural disasters, people get together and they pray so that, hopefully the storm doesn't touch down. We grew up in a very religious household. So we were up at the church praying. And I think the parents and like all the adults were in like the one area doing that. Me and like the cousins, we were all in this little nursery area and we were like watching a movie. And I went through those little like nursery doors where there's like a tall door and a short door. I went through that door to go, yep, you know the one. I needed to go to the bathroom. So the pastor's daughter had been watching us. And so I was like, yeah, can I go to the bathroom? She's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And like opens the door. And so I stepped into the hallway and there was this long, dark hallway. But I mean, there's enough light where you can see from one end of the hallway to the other. It's just a little dark. But I remember looking to my right and seeing this man just standing there staring at me. And the best way I can describe him is from what my child brain remembers. So to me, he kind of looked like Tarzan. He had long, dark hair. He had clothes on, but not much clothes from what I can remember. And I remember him being like very dirty and disheveled. And I was scared of him. But at the same time, he didn't necessarily do anything that was like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It was like, I wasn't expecting him, so he startled me, but he didn't seem like evil, if that makes sense. But I stared at him for a second, and then he started running down the hallway towards me. And I remember screaming. And he just took off down the hallway and then disappeared. And so I'm screaming, I'm freaking out. I asked my sister about this later. She said she remembers seeing him too. But I don't know if any of the other kids saw him. I don't know if the pastor's daughter saw him because like I kind of put all these things together as I got older. It's like a weird recovered memory thing. So I don't know. But so I saw him, he disappeared. And then there was another point that same night where we all went into the area where the adults were praying. And I remember looking up in the balcony and I saw him again. And he was like standing, this is so weird, on the edge of like the rafters, like he was going to jump, but he was just kind of like standing there. Super weird.
My goodness.
And then I saw him a third time, which was the final time. And that was when we were leaving for the evening. We walked out into the courtyard and he was just running around in the courtyard and disappeared again. And when I say disappeared, I don't remember if he like materialized. I don't remember if I like looked away and looked back and he was gone. Like it's all very fuzzy because this happened when I was in like, I think elementary school. But it's the weirdest fucking thing ever. I don't know if it was like, when I talked to Andy Tate about it, he was like, maybe he was a time traveler. And that was probably one of my favorite theories. The other one that I've gotten is maybe he was Jesus. Maybe he was like some type of dog man entity. Maybe it was a homeless man. I was like, I don't know. I don't know what to make of any of these theories, but it's the weirdest fucking thing that's ever happened. So had to tell that one.
Well, I think one of the weirdest things is that you walk outside and he's just running around.
Yeah, I know. It's like a
That's
wild
one
man.
of the weirdest things. And then standing up in the rafters like he's about to jump is also weird.
Yeah.
And then I'm just picturing you like as a 6-year-old little girl, and this guy is standing in the hallway, and you're just like, oh my God. And then he's just like, I'm going to run at this chick. And then run by her, and then like scare the shit out of her and just continue running. And that way nobody else can ever see it. Man, that sound, the to me that sounds like a ghost, because if I was a ghost, I'd definitely do some fucking weird shit like
Oh,
that just to make people be like, "What the hell?" You know?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're stuck in another dimension, or who knows how any of that works, right? But if you're kind of in this purgatory and
Right.
you're like stuck here, naturally you're going to seek some havoc. I would definitely be haunting people, doing some weird stuff.
Mhm. Mhm. That was the storm, like, gone when I assume was gone when you guys decided to leave?
Yeah, yeah.
Alright.
It had luckily gone over us. I think there was like a little bit of like some roof damage and stuff like that, but it didn't touch down or anything. But that did make
Okay.
me think, because, sometimes people talk about how storms increase paranormal activity. So
Yep.
that was interesting, because that kind of stirred that whole situation up. But that could be another good thing to look up, is if that church has any known hauntings or like weird activity. I think it's
That
still
would
up and
be. Are you
running.
yeah? Yeah, are you still, like, in the area or general vicinity of it?
My parents still live maybe like we've moved, but they're maybe like a half hour from there. I'm
Okay.
a couple hours from it, but yeah, my parents are pretty close.
Alright. Alright. When was the last time you were there?
Um,
Do you remember?
yeah, I mean, at that church or visiting my parents?
Yeah,
At the church?
at the
Oh
church.
man. So we church hopped a lot when I was a kid, which is a whole other story. But I think the last time I was there was probably like maybe a year or two after that. Like we didn't stay there much longer after that. We were at new churches
Oh,
like
okay.
every couple of years. So,
Yeah. I understand church hopping. I mean, it's hard to find organized religion, I feel, is, flawed in a lot of ways,
oh
so
yeah.
to find the right one, um, that doesn't seem fear-mongering, I guess,
100%. Yeah.
is kinda hard.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
personally agnostic now, but growing
yeah.
up, my dad was a pastor and we were going to a lot of different churches, and
Oh,
I
wow.
was at church like 2, 3 nights a week for pretty much my whole life. So,
Yeah. I I didn't grow up religious. I feel like I might be leaning more towards religion. Like, I don't think worshiping in a building is necessarily the way,
required.
I guess. I 'cause re or yeah, required, I should
Yeah,
say. I think being outside, just experiencing nature and, like, unplugging is just being outside and, like, doing something outside, whether it's hiking, fishing, sitting in silence, I feel like is just a good way to, connect with source, you
100%.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
With whatever the entity is, you know? I talk to a lot of Christians on the show, and I do think that I believe in God, but I'm back and forth with it. My kids definitely all of a sudden out of nowhere believe in God, which is really strange. I've never really talked to them about it, but my son all of a sudden just quotes scripture. He has a little Bible that he got,
Aw.
and it's really interesting. But if God is real, he's definitely doing something to my kids because my kids are important to me. I feel like if he is real, he's like the best way to my heart would be through my children. So I
Yeah,
think that would be the way that would work.
that's really sweet. No, I like that a lot. I always like to ask this to parents. It's one of my favorite questions, because kids are more susceptible to being sensitive and
Hmm.
paranormal. Have your kids ever had any weird experiences or said anything weird where you're like, what the heck?
Yeah, they've had a couple experiences. Most of them have been in this house, and I don't know if they're just paying attention because they know about my podcast and what I talk about. But my daughter, when she was really little, she scared the crap out of me. I was trying to put her to bed, and she was crying about this black cat is gonna attack her. And I'm like, "What black cat? There's no black cat here." And she just kept pointing at it because her and my son shared a room for a little bit, and he had the top bunk, and she was sleeping on the bottom. So she was pointing up at the bottom of his bed, saying, "There's a black cat there." And I'm like slowly turning. And I'm like, I was like, there's no cat. There's no cat. What are you talking about? And she was like, it's gonna get me. Like, and then she just went and passed right out. And I was just like, what the hell was that? I was scared. I searched the house for a cat. It was, oh my goodness. I mean, I think we had two cats at the time. One of them was black, but
Oh, okay.
there was no way that it was sitting up there. I think she was black and white. So she wasn't all black, but it was I was like, I'm looking all around the house. I'm like, there's got to be a black, like a full black cat or some like evil cat that I need to get out of the house
Have
or
you
something
heard
like that.
of
And
Kasha? Have you ever heard of the Kasha?
no, I haven't.
That's one of the first paranormal stories I ever covered on my show. But there's this house in Hawaii called the Kasha House of Kaimuki, and it's super creepy. But that is the entity that they kept seeing. Like
Uh-huh.
there's other stories in it, but it's like it's a cat, like a black cat, and you'll see like its tail kind of around the corner. But it's
Oh,
spooky
wow.
because there were police documentation of like the police would go to the house and investigate, and they would
Uh-huh.
also have experiences. So it's one of those like well documented hauntings. But yeah, it's Kasha. I think it's a Japanese I guess you would call it a cryptid or like a Japanese demon. It's been a long time since I
Yeah, oh
talked
yeah.
about that, but yeah, that's what that made me think of when you said the black cat.
Yeah, she was so convinced. She was like in that state because she had fallen asleep on the couch. So I carried her to her bed, and she was like in that like I'm not awake, but I'm not sleeping
Right.
state. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when she just went like that first, and I'm just like, what is happening? And then she pointed and was like, the black cat is gonna get me, and I was like, oh, what? That was probably by far one of the creepiest things that either one of my kids have ever put me through. I mean, I've been through a lot of creepy situations, um, whether it's paranormal or, you know, actual real life other human beings.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, which to me, the living is a lot more scarier than the dead. And I think we
Mhm.
like ghost hunters, people who are out doing the Sasquatch stuff. I think that's what everybody needs to be more wary of is are other humans
Yeah,
than the
100%.
what we're actually looking for, you know? So,
Yeah. There was someone I was talking to the other day. They said they had just interviewed a paranormal investigator who goes like all over the US, and
mhm,
she's a female, and one of the things that she said was um the thing that I'm always the most weary of is human beings. So,
mhm,
yeah, she's like I could encounter a really malevolent or negative entity, but by and large what I'm going to be the most fearful of is if there's other people around. And I was like, yeah, fair.
yeah, absolutely. Alexander Petikoff, he works with Small Town Monsters. He was on the show like a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago now. And he does a lot of Sasquatch hikes and stuff like that. And I was watching one of his episodes before he came on the show, and he was in Florida in the Everglades, and he came across a car in the middle of the woods, and their lights were on, and it shows it on film and everything, but not close enough to read the license plate and stuff like that. And he says on film, he's like, we don't want to get too close. We don't know what they're doing or what they're here for, why they're out here, because we don't want to alert them to our position. So we're just going to turn around and walk away. So that's what he did. So when he was on the show, I asked him about that situation. He said the same exact thing. He said the biggest um, fear that we have are other people because we don't know why they're out in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
They could be burying a body and they don't want witnesses. They could be doing a drug deal. He goes, there's so many other things. And he goes, that's why I always carry a gun on me. He goes, I hope I never have to use it, but I always keep it. He has like this survival kit on it that he carries on his chest. It's like a fanny pack, and it's really cool looking. I kind of want one. And he's able to put his gun in there, and he's like, I carry it everywhere I go. He goes, the whole point uh, of our hikes, the main focus is safety first. So whenever we come in contact with another human being, we try and keep it short and sweet because you never know.
Yeah,
Or
100%.
or try to get away from them is
Right.
the main thing. And he did tell me a story one time. I can't remember where he was, but it looked like they were having some kind of ritual. There was a big fire and a bunch of people in cloaks out in the middle of the woods, and he's like, "I'm fucking
Nope.
nope, we're getting out of here."
I think the fuck not. Goodbye.
Yeah,
Yeah, no
yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. Man, I just humans are scary.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna end that part. It's just humans are. I'm very hopeful in mankind, but I'm also very scared of them. So
Yeah, no, for sure. I have some stories for sure. There was one that I told on Beyond the Shadows because they do their campfire at the end of their episodes.
yep.
And it's also been featured on Let's Not Meet. It's a very scary story that I hate, but it's a good one to tell. Just as a perfect
Mm-hmm.
example. So I was in college at the time, and I worked at this student living apartment complex. I was basically like a resident assistant. I would like help with leases and give tours and stuff like that. I also lived on the property, but it was like 10 minutes from campus. So we started getting these complaints about this creepy guy that was knocking on women's doors and either like trying to get in, like pretending that he knew one of the other people that lived there, because it's a lot of like randomly assigned roommates, or he was like
Mm-hmm.
literally sneaking into people's apartments and just watching them, like they would wake up and see somebody there, things like that. And so my manager knew about it and was doing fuck all. So that was really frustrating. But I was also like, I think 22 or 23 at the time. So I was also still just kind of naive. Like I had never had any experiences like this. But I'm glad that I knew what was going on, because I had a knock on my door one night and I had a randomly assigned roommate, but she wasn't home. She had random guys come over a lot because she was single and was dating around. And I feel like if she would have been home, I might have opened the door. But
Yeah.
so he knocked, and I immediately was like, well, I'm not opening that. I'm not expecting anybody. So I remember looking through the peephole, and it was dark. So I just saw his shadow. I couldn't really make out his face, but it was a big guy. And he said, pizza delivery, which was interesting because this man had no pizza in his hand. And so I was like, no pizza here. Got the wrong apartment. And he was like, his tone, I remember this distinctly. His tone changed immediately. He was like, are you sure? It got really creepy. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure. And I think I said something like, you better leave or I'm calling the police. And luckily he left, but we continued to get complaints after that. Obviously I have no way of knowing if this was the same guy, but I suspect, because we weren't hearing about anybody else. So there was a call, I think a few days later, from another female resident who had been walking to her car that morning. And this man followed her to her car and was banging on the door, banging on the window, trying to get her to open the door. And then a couple days after that, we got a call that a female resident was home alone, taking a shower, and she had, I guess, like part of the shower curtain open so she could kind of see into her bedroom a little bit, like through the reflection of the bathroom mirror. She saw a shadow go by. And
Oh fuck.
yeah, so she is just kind of standing in the shower, like, what's going on? A hand reaches around the shower curtain and rips it open. And this man is just staring at her naked body, being a fucking creep. And, she's screaming, "Get out. What the fuck are you doing? Get out of my apartment." And he panicked and left, thank God. But that was finally the point where my manager was like, maybe we should give a fuck about what's going on. And called the police. They filed a report. But there was nothing else done. There was no increase in security, blah, blah, blah. And there were rumors, I don't know if this happened, but there were rumors that he did come back and sexually assault someone. And then a couple months went by and I wasn't living at that apartment anymore, but one of my friends was like an assistant manager there, and she sent me an article about a man who was a custodian at our local college who had just been arrested for breaking into women's apartments around the area. And he had been tied to a couple of rapes. He had been sleeping with sex workers, but was also like starting to get really rough and aggressive with them. And he like basically blamed it on his addiction to porn, something like that. But he was working as a custodian at the school. And so I've always wondered if that was the same guy.
Everybody loves a good ghost story. From the renowned haunting of the Amityville Horror House to the lesser-known curse of the Bassano Vase, legends of the ghostly and macabre have been fascinating and frightening us for centuries. But have you ever wondered if there's any truth behind the lore? Over the last 8 years that I've spent as a paranormal researcher, I have constantly asked one important question. Is this a hoax, or could it truly be a haunt? I'm Courtney Hayes, host of the podcast Haunts, where every week I dissect another ghostly legend in an effort to find the truth that lies within. Listen to Haunts for free on your favorite podcasting app and help me to unveil the unknown.
I mean, it sounds like it, but who fuck knows? There's so many fucking weirdos out there. Could have been a gang of them,
Right.
for all we know.
Right, because I couldn't see him, so I don't know what he looked like.
Right.
But yeah, and so I think about that all the time of like, what would have happened if I would have opened that door? Or
Right.
what would have happened if that guy wouldn't have ran out of that chick's apartment when she screamed and told him to leave? Like, people are so
Right.
crazy.
It's the makings of those are all the things that happen before they start committing murders.
100%. 100%.
So
Yeah, sexual assaults are not convicted nearly as much as they should be, and their sentences are never as long as they should be. And that's always something that's so frustrating.
I agree. I 100% agree with you on that. I mean, there's even murders that don't get very long sentences. I mean, there's people who were just involved with planning a murder that are serving more time than people who actually have committed murder.
I know.
So
isn't that crazy?
I actually so Sunday on I do a morning show called Weird Java in the Morning with David, and we decided to start doing some true crime. So
Yeah, I saw you've been covering like missing persons. That's great.
Yeah. I think missing persons are really important because people go missing constantly, especially children, and it breaks my heart. A lot of people don't come home, so and when they are found, it's not always a good situation. So when not saying that like the efforts that we're doing is actually bringing people home, but I think that it's a step to make other people aware to be vigilant in the people that they see around them.
Yeah, absolutely. You never know.
Right, exactly. And so I decided to start covering some true crime stories in for a segment, and I was researching this one. So the woman that was the partner of the guy who committed it got 2 life sentences, and she didn't do anything. I mean, she might have planned it and told him to do it and had, like, a hand in, like, the financial part of wanting, because they wanted a fancier lifestyle than what they had.
Mm,
Um, but she got just as much as time as he did, and there's people like there's there was this little girl back in the '80s, she was 12, or 13, and she was murdered by a group of girls, that went to the same school,
mm,
and the way they killed her was disgusting, and all of them are out right now.
yeah.
None of them are still in jail, and I don't know, it's I think, like, I mean, I guess it all depends on state too, like, because state to state is a lot different for certain things, for a lot of different things, not just murder and stuff, but, like, I mean, when I hear it all the time in true crime stories where the guy had broken into a woman's apartment, stole underwear or something like that, gets caught, and then serves like a couple nights in jail for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then he gets arrested for rape or an assault, um, and serves like maybe 2 years and gets out. And then he's like, I don't want to get caught for it again, so I'm just gonna start killing them instead. So, like, I don't know. I think when it comes to sexual crimes, any of them, and like pedophilia and stuff, I think there if they were harsher punishments, I feel like people wouldn't the people that want to do them might be deterred a little bit more.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I part of me is hopeful that that will change because it wasn't until more recently that things like stalking and sex crimes were starting to get like harsher sentences. And also just it wasn't until more recently that police investigators and like law enforcement started recognizing that sex crimes will not always but often will escalate to violent crimes. So it's
Mhm.
my hope that as the years go on, unfortunately, and this, not that this happens to more people, but just like that
Mhm.
it'll continue to bring awareness and that these things will start getting more harsher sentences. But that comes with new laws being passed. So yeah, that definitely needs to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so one of the questions that I really wanted to ask you, out of all the cryptids you've covered so far, what has been your favorite?
That's a good question. Um, I Okay, so I haven't covered like a ton of cryptids, but as far as just like straight up silly hilarious, my favorite was probably Gobble Squatch, and it's not as well known of a cryptid.
I haven't heard of it.
So I covered it last Thanksgiving. It's a gigantic turkey.
That makes sense to cover it on
It's
Thanksgiving.
hilarious. It's
I'll
so
have to go back to listen to
funny.
that one.
Yeah, it's just silly. I think it was in Virginia, and it was just basically these sightings of a gigantic turkey, and there was like this crazed mad scientist professor guy that like became convinced that he was real, and so he like went out to go hunt for gobble squatch, and he disguised himself as a gigantic egg. And his theory was that, well, if I disguise myself as an egg, then he'll think that I'm like one of his little hatchlings or whatever, and like I can get really close. And I remember saying, like, what in the Scooby Doo is going on? This is so weird. And that guy ended up disappearing. which was also really
Oh,
weird.
shit.
Yeah. But it's just a very silly cryptid and a lesser known one. So that's something I always try to do is find like more of the lesser knowns. I've covered some other really popular ones. Also like on Patreon, I did like Chupacabra, but I was like pretty disappointed in Chupacabra. I thought I would find more compelling things and I really didn't. So that in terms of like funny is my favorite. In terms of like what I've found more just interesting with like the lore and stuff, I covered the Bunyip not too long ago, which is a really popular Australian cryptid. And there's just really fascinating folklore behind the Bunyip. And there were a lot of sightings in the 1800s. So I just found that one to be like really, really fascinating.
Yeah. The name itself is fascinating to me.
Bunyip, yeah.
Yeah, and they also call their dogman Yui or something like that.
Oh yeah, I've heard that
Out
there's
there.
different names, yeah. Which makes sense. I mean,
yeah,
there's different names for lots of different creatures around the world, but yeah, Australia has some really, really cool folklore.
Yeah, I like their accents too.
Oh
I always
yeah.
try to do a British accent, and it always ends up sounding Australian. So I'm just like, whatever. I'll just do an Australian accent.
I always resort to the "oh no."
My daughter does the same thing. She does it all the time with everything, and I'm just like, what?
I got it
'Cause
from
she's 13.
I got it from that Nickelodeon show, H2O.
I think pretty sure that's where she got it
Oh
from,
my
to be
gosh. Yeah,
honest
that
with
was
you.
my show in high school. And that's how they talked. They'd be like, Cleo, I know. It's just like the most over the top. It's hilarious.
I have a cryptid that's from Maine. I'm looking it up real quick. But it's called the Tote Road Shagman. Have you heard of this one?
No, can't say that I have. Shagman. What was the first word? Tote Road?
Yeah, Tote Road. So Tote Road
okay.
is like it's like a goat path from like back in the day where they used to like wheel wagons and stuff for like logging and all that stuff.
Okay.
So it was oh shoot. Okay, now I'm getting conflicting things. When I looked it up, friggin' now it's saying Shagma.
Huh.
Hold on a sec.
Well, I don't think anybody's going to come for you for getting the name of this random cryptid wrong.
Oh, I guess I am getting it wrong. I thought it was Shagman. It's Shagama.
Interesting.
The Tote Road Shagama.
Shagama.
I could have sworn it was a Shagman.
Are there drawings or a picture of it? I'm gonna look this up.
More fun. There is. It's like the lakes in Allagash region of Maine, and a lot of loggers saw it. And there's like been several different depictions of it, like
Oh, that's creepy. Yeah, I just found a picture of it.
yeah. And they're saying that so it's like a goat man looking thing, and then
Yeah.
there's also a bear head with moose antlers and deer legs, and
Huh.
it's
So it's
a
kind of
wild.
like a Wendigo mixed with a goat man.
Yeah.
Huh. And there's some
I've
where
always found
he's like walking almost like in a handstand. Have you seen
yeah.
those?
Yep. It's I thought the funniest part of it was the fact that some of them he's depicted as, a bear with antlers
Yeah.
and deer legs, and then I'm like, what in the world is this thing? And then there's other ones where he just looks like a satyr,
Yeah.
almost like a goat man thing. And I'm just like, well, which one is it, Mainers?
Yeah, that was one of the really weird things about the Bunyip sightings in Australia is there are like very, very different reports. Like, usually there'll be random little things where it's like, oh, like this one person said he had claws and the other person didn't. These were like, one person said it looked like a starfish and the other person said it looked like a seal. Like, very different things.
Absolutely. Like totally different creatures,
Yeah.
people. Come on. You can't call every single just because you thought it was weird the same creature name.
This might just be a myth, but isn't there a thing like that about Christopher Columbus that like he thought he saw a mermaid, but a lot of people think he saw like a porpoise or something?
Yes.
Because he just had never seen a porpoise.
Yeah, apparently in his diaries he talks about it, about mermaids, I guess. And that's what they're saying. Like they never encountered it, so that it looked like a woman with like a mermaid underneath the water. And I don't know, because I've seen them moving around underwater. I don't think I would ever get them confused with a person, like being half person.
I know.
You know what I
My
mean?
only theory with that is like there's different oh, I wish I could remember what this was called. But like, okay, have you ever seen the pictures where you're looking out at the ocean and it looks like a ship is literally floating? Like,
Yes, I've seen
those
that.
are super trippy. So like there's weird,
Mhm.
curvatures with water where it can play tricks on you. So if something's under the water, it could totally look different than what it actually is, or it could look much bigger or smaller. So there's that. And then also just like being on the water all day, kind of like highway hypnosis. When you've been driving all day, you can see some weird things. And then like during that time period, a lot of people, like, we didn't have a lot of science and understanding. So if we saw something we didn't recognize, we were like, that's a witch, or that's a mermaid, that's a vampire. So
Yeah, I didn't really think of it until just now, but like I guess he could have been dehydrated too, which could also make you delusional.
that's very true. Yeah. Or could have had some ergot
So,
going on or something in his food.
absolutely. Absolutely. I've seen I was driving home one night. I was really young and stupid, and I decided to drink and drive, which was the very last time I ever did so.
Good.
First and only.
Good.
But I saw what I thought was this huge black dog standing in the middle of the road, and I came to a complete stop. And I was like, where'd it go? Like it didn't move. I didn't like the whole time. Like I'm stopping and I'm staring right at its eyes. And then once I completed the stop, I don't know what the hell happened. If I blinked and it just disappeared or what, but it wasn't there. And I'm looking around. Thankfully, like the road wasn't busy. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And I was out. It's like a road between two cities. So like it's very rural and it's farm
Yeah.
land. So I was leaving one city to go to the city that I lived in. And they're only like half an hour apart through this road. But I'm like, I'm lucky there was nobody behind me, because I was doing 55 and then went from 55 to stopped.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So
That's lucky.
I don't know. I don't know if I was imagining it or if there was
Right.
something like actually out there. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. When we first started talking about paranormal earlier too, and how I was like, yeah, I haven't had any experiences since I was a kid. Part of
Mhm.
me wonders if I have had experiences, but I just don't realize it because I am naturally a very skeptical person.
Yeah,
There have been things, and that's part of why I started doing this show, I think, is because I'm open to the paranormal and the unknown, and I think it's so interesting. And I do believe in ghosts, but there's I don't know, there's always so much room for doubt when you experience something yourself. And so, it's possible
absolutely.
I have experienced things as an adult and I just didn't realize it.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that say the same exact thing. I've gotten into conversations with people at work, or just random people, or people that are friends with my friends that just I'm just having a conversation, like a quick conversation, and the podcast gets brought up, I tell them what I talk about. Oh, I've never seen a ghost, but this one time my cup levitated or something silly like that. You know what I mean? And I'm
Right.
just like, that sounds like paranormal.
Yeah. Actually.
But yeah, no, I'm sure there's like, so I used to see shadow people all the frickin' time, all the time, ever since I was little. Um, and I just I mean, like, I like again, there was a good portion from when I reached adulthood, like around the time my son was born, to all the way up until my recent ex splitting up, where I never saw shadow people. But like weird things happened periodically while I was with my ex-wife, but with my ex-girlfriend, like I said, there was nothing because I was trying to be like the perfect boyfriend all the time, and
Right.
it frickin' wore me out.
Yeah, I
Um,
bet.
but yeah, I didn't start seeing them again until I was here and stuff, but they never did anything, you know,
Mhm.
which is odd. But when I was little, they scared the crap out of me. But as I got older, I'm just like, oh hey, what's up, you know, kind of thing. And especially in this house, I was just like, I was like, I'm going to sleep. I
Mm.
was like, if I open my eyes, I don't want to see you standing there, so you should probably go away. And they usually listen, and for some reason, a lot of things listen when you use the name Jesus.
Mhm.
I'm not 100% sure if it's the actual name or if it's the intent behind it. I tend to lean more
Hmm.
towards the intent rather than the actual name because I've heard stories like I don't know if you know her, she's the author, Karen Wilkinson. I had her on the show too.
Hmm.
She's a public speaker and stuff, and she talks about how she was abducted by aliens, and she used the in the name of Jesus I rebuke you, and they got scared and left.
Oh, interesting.
She's like, so these things like follow our rules too,
Wow.
which is really weird. And I'm like, yeah, that is super interesting. It makes me feel like if like not saying that she didn't experience what she experienced, but that makes me feel like if aliens are real and they're listening to that and they're like, "Oh shit, I should get out of here." Makes me feel more like they're from here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so interesting too because aliens it's such a big topic, but like there's people
Mhm.
in religious communities too that like refuse to believe that aliens could be real because in their opinion it goes against what the Bible says. Like there's only heaven and hell, there's only angels and demons, so there's no way we could have these other entities. And then there's more stories I've heard recently like that, where someone had an experience like that, or there was another story I heard of someone being abducted and they were like, in the name of Jesus, get out, and they left. And you brought up a good point that I hadn't thought about before is like, it could be the intent that makes them leave. But yeah, aliens are very interesting to me. I will say, I know this is kind of controversial because, and don't get me wrong, like I love aliens, I love the whole idea, but I am very skeptical about aliens. Um, and that's not to say that I don't believe there couldn't be other life out there. We are microscopic. There are so many unexplored areas. Space is absolutely massive. So I definitely think there is other life out there, but
Mhm.
it's hard to like, I guess, imagine the idea of there being like other intelligent, higher level, possibly superior beings that have like these things they can do that we don't understand that are like watching us, and then just like the idea of being abducted by them. I've covered stories like that and I do find them really interesting, but I'm like super skeptical of them because it's just so hard for me to even like wrap my head around the idea, you know.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. There's part of like I want to believe in them, and it's just like when it comes to like Sasquatch and stuff, like ghosts 100% I believe, like there's no question about it.
Mm.
Cryptids are a little bit harder and aliens are a little bit harder. Like I think of them like Santa Claus, like I want them to be real,
Hmm.
but there's a good possibility that they're not. And if they are real, I would love to see them. I think I saw a cryptid one time. I don't know if I did. I just saw red glowing eyes in the woods.
Mm,
Not 100% sure. It could have been a lot of things. It looked big. It looked like it was standing behind a boulder and it was really big, but like again, I don't unless I can see like 100% characteristics and all that stuff, I will never know for sure, and I don't think any of us will. And sometimes I think that we're also aliens. Like I'm not 100% sure that we are from here technically.
yeah.
Like cuz naturally without science and technology, we have a hard time surviving in a lot of different parts of the earth. Like
Mm,
we can't survive in water. Um we get soggy and things get soft and our nails start to go through our skin and stuff like that.
yeah.
Um in the hotter areas, like obviously white people, well actually all people of all different skin colors burn technically.
Hmm.
Um obviously it's hard when the darker complected you are, it's harder to get to a burn, but um we can't survive in the heat, we can't survive in the cold without clothes and shelter and all this stuff, but all of the other animals in the world can.
Yeah.
So sometimes sometimes I'm just like, were we meant to be here? I mean, yeah,
Right.
there's like plants and stuff out there for us to eat and that we can survive on. And obviously water is very important to us. And I don't know why we keep fucking up our water, but we do. But that's
We're fucking
besides
up
the
a
point.
lot
I
of
don't have any
things.
control of
We're fucking up a lot of things these days. Yeah, I've
That's
heard that
true. That's
argument.
true.
I've heard that argument before. I need to like read up on it more. I know my buddies over at Believing the Bizarre have talked about it, but I didn't listen to that episode. But it's yeah, it's I think their episode was called like Did We Come from Earth? And it's like that whole concept of could humans be aliens or I don't know, some other spiritual being. And I mean, we hear that argument with paranormal too, is like we're we're having this spiritual experience. That's why we're meant to be on this earth. So it's
Mhm.
very interesting to think about. I'm open to all of it, you know. I um I'll never say like 100% absolutely not. Otherwise I wouldn't do what I do on this show. But I can't
Yeah.
help that I'm naturally skeptical about these things. But I think it's good to be skeptical too. I think it's good to like ask questions and
Yes,
not
I
be
agree.
so, you can't be so open or so closed that like your brain falls out. You know what I mean? And you have to be able to ask
Mhm.
questions. And I feel like that's all. There was like something I heard really recently that I really liked. It was basically like there's knowing and there's not knowing, and there's the learning space in between. And life is about learning and being in that space all the time. And like what learning feels like is feeling frustrated. So if you are trying to like know and understand something and you feel frustrated, just remember that feeling frustrated is a good thing because that means you're learning something. So it's not about getting to the end and knowing the truth. It's about the learning space. So I think it's always good to question and learn and question authority, however you want to word that. But
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, I'm all about
Yeah.
the mysteries and asking questions. And I don't think that a mystery is about, I don't think a mystery is meant to be solved. I think a mystery is just meant to be studied and questioned, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like a lot of people can use that state of mind or that mindset um these days, especially the people that are so into politics, especially. I'm not gonna go into politics. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of people I feel like on either side. I think people need to have more of conversations and um, have a space of learning each other rather than just because your opinion is different than mine means that you're a bad person. You know what I
Right.
mean?
That's something that I've really had to
So
work on because
I
I
think that
used to get like
can that
very
that
Can you hear me?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, we glitched there for a quick second.
There- I got you. I got you back now.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was just saying, I think a lot of people need to learn that no matter what the situation is. Just I think it's a good way to, uh, uh, like you said, knowing and not knowing, and then there's a space of learning, and I think that can go a long way in a lot of different aspects.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely. That's something that I've had to work on too, because I used to get very heated and upset when someone would have a differing opinion from me. But it's like I have to remind myself that your algorithm is different from my algorithm. There are things that you see that I never see and vice versa. So sometimes I'll look at something and I'll be like, how could anybody ever think differently of this person or this ideology? And it's like, well, you're seeing something different. The comments you read on the same video that
Mhm.
I just watched are different. So, I have to like have that in the back of my mind when I have discussions with people in my own family. So it's,
Mhm.
I mean, there's things that I feel very passionately about because I love people and I want to help people. And I think that there's a lot about science just because of like my schooling that I feel very passionately about. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that I'm right. It's my
Right.
opinion. So yeah, I think that's part of like maturing is being willing to have a conversation. And I also think that the media intentionally tries to divide us and that makes them more powerful. And so I think what gives us the
Absolutely.
power is being able to look at things a little bit more openly and try to see both sides. It's no different than like if you're covering a story, like how the media should be and how podcasters and content creators should be when they're covering like mysterious or open-ended concepts is like we need to try. Obviously, there's always going to be bias, but just trying to look at both sides is the best way to come to any kind of mutual understanding. That's what you would want a police investigator to do is look at all sides of the story to figure out what happened, right? Investigate multiple suspects, multiple possibilities. So it's very often not just one thing. So it's good to keep an open mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the media has been a problem for a long time.
Mhm.
There's been so many people talking about it. You hear it in music all the time too. Um, but I will say, like, to kind of put this into a perspective from my understanding when it comes to the media, when you so have you seen the Gabby Petito documentary?
I've only seen the first episode. I'm covering it for Patreon. So,
Okay.
yeah, I've seen the first one and I purposely have kept my information about the story limited. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I only know what's from the first story. I know obviously that she was murdered, but
Right,
yeah.
right. So I'm not spoiling anything. I'm just saying this one thing that the media took her story, ran with it, and they tend to do this whenever it's a white blonde woman
Oh, sure.
and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So like a lot like Native women, anybody of any other ethnicity tends to there was a lot of other women that went missing around the same time.
I heard
And
about that.
thanks to her efforts too, a lot of the efforts of looking for her, they discovered other bodies and stuff. But
Yeah.
to know that the media does that, right?
Mhm.
They favor certain missing people or murdered cases and stuff like that. To know that, and then to think that everything that they're saying is true
Yeah.
is wild to me.
No, I think that part of doing this podcast has taught me that too, because I really, especially when I do a true crime case, I really try to take my time with researching. I'll usually research a true crime case for at least a couple weeks, if not longer. Um,
Hmm.
and and time again, I'll come across these media stories that are just not correct. And like there'll be like major sources. Unsolved mysteries. I love unsolved mysteries, but oh my gosh, their stories leave out so much information. There've been a lot of stories that like I'll watch the unsolved mysteries and it'll give me like a little taste of it, and I find out so much more after I look at a bunch of other stuff. So that's taught me a lot too, because the media, I've learned, and I mean this is just my opinion, but I feel like a lot of people feel this way. From what I've gathered, the media cares a lot more about telling a story, not telling what actually happened. And that's a problem, because the news is often our main source of information for very important things. So it's like, how are we supposed to have a full understanding or a factual understanding of what's going on when we're not even being given the right information? And like, you know, I could get into media literacy and all that stuff too, but that's a problem with different generations. You know, there's stuff that my parents see on Facebook or something and will send to me, and I'm like, that's not real. And, you know, having to explain like what the onion is and stuff like that. So, you know, it's crazy.
It really is. It really is. You know, because my dad wakes up to the news and he goes to bed. I lived with him for a little bit before I bought this house, and it was just like every night he watched the 6 o'clock news, the 7 o'clock news, the 8 o'clock news, and I'm just like, what is going on?
Oh man.
I was like, read a little bit, or maybe like research these things that you're learning about. Like, it's the generation. I get it. I get it. When he was my age, the only source of news was the news or newspaper. So
Right.
um yeah, the media is full of dirty tricks, and it's another thing. Another problem with them is they're all fighting to be the first to tell the story. So they don't care if half of it is incorrect. They just want to be the first one to say it.
Or if they're being sensitive. Yeah. My sister, tragically, when she was in high school, lost her friend. Her friend was only 15 years old. She was killed in a car accident. And like the next day, people were banging on our door trying to talk to my sister. And my sister was just inconsolable. Didn't want to talk to the media at all, but they kept hounding her and pressuring her. And I remember watching an interview of my sister, and like I could tell she was so in shock and so traumatized. It like physically hurt me to watch her have to talk about it.
Ugh.
Yeah, it just like made me sick. And so I can't even imagine it being
Yeah.
like a true crime case where it's like a parent just lost their child or something. Obviously with like missing persons, those things, it's like, okay, time is of the essence. We have to just get as much information out. So I understand that whole argument too, but like there's a way to ethically and empathetically have those conversations, and I feel like a lot of people in media don't understand that. I absolutely hate press and paparazzi disgust me, and like tabloids and stuff.
Paparazzi for sure. Yeah,
there's a special place in hell for paparazzi.
I believe it too. I believe it too. Like, I've seen so many paparazzi videos where the bodyguard, like, and sometimes the people actually have to move them so they can get in their cars.
Oh yeah.
Like, celebrities are great. I'm glad that they exist so that they can entertain and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
at the same time, they're not gods.
No.
They're just regular people trying to live their regular life as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I get irritated in the freaking grocery store when somebody's in my way, let alone if I'm trying to walk out to my car because I acted really good in some movie at some point in time and they want to take my picture when I'm leaving dinner.
Yeah, no. I feel like if I was a celebrity, I would have the attitude of Chapel Roan. I don't know if you've seen like interviews with her before, but she pulls no punches.
Yeah.
She's just like, excuse you, step back. I'm a person.
Yep.
You're a person. We can be mature. or we can have a problem. Like I don't do people getting in my face. I like my privacy. So yeah, I wouldn't be a very fun celebrity in that sense, because I wouldn't put up with that bullshit, you know?
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. Well, Kaydra, I think I would love to have you back sometime, because I feel like we could talk about anything and everything.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Um, but if you don't mind, for the people listening, letting everybody know where they can find you and your podcast, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So it's Perplexity, a mystery podcast. I know it's a mouthful. And you can find it anywhere podcasts are available. You can watch me on YouTube, or you could follow me on Instagram at Perplexity Mystery Podcast, and also on TikTok at Perplexity Mystery Podcast.
Dope, dope. I almost forgot to ask my closing question too.
Oh, yeah.
So are you finding fulfillment in doing what you're doing?
That's a good question. Yes, no, I am. There have been times where I call them mentee bees, mental breakdowns. And I'm like, why am I putting so much work into this when nobody's listening? I feel like I'm putting these things into the void, but I feel like finally over like the last several months, I've had this turning point where I am starting to see growth and opportunities that have paid off. It's just hard because like I consider this an art form. So if you're like putting artwork out and nobody's buying it, then it's disheartening, you
Yeah.
know? I don't want to like ruin the magic of podcasting and say it's so much work, because I know that kind of ruins it for the listener, but it is. If you're putting cases and research together every week and doing all this editing and stuff. So, but yeah, I am finding fulfillment in it. I love learning new things every week, if nothing else. Even just getting like one comment that was like, this was a really good episode. Like that's awesome. This season I'm doing some different stuff, and I think I'll find that really fulfilling. I'm working on more true crime cases, and I'm going to be don't want to give too much information away yet, but I'm going to be interviewing a loved one of someone who went missing very soon, and I haven't interviewed like family members before, so I feel very honored to be doing that. So
Mhm.
I think just connecting with people is what I find fulfilling in this. So when I've had guests on and gotten to like meet people through like these little podcast groups like we're in, that's been very fulfilling as well. So yes, I feel like I'm at the point now where I'm in like a rhythm with my recording. So I'm like excited to record now, and I'm not like super exhausted when I'm done. So we're in our third season now. So I'm really excited for what 2025 will bring.
Nice, nice. I'm excited too. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for all of our friends that are in our circle and everything. Everybody has been so nice and accepting and
Yeah.
helpful, and it's been an amazing journey for me, and from the sounds like it's been amazing one for you. So I'm happy to have met you in not technically in person, but kind of
Yeah.
close enough.
I know. I feel like I know you now. Yeah, I know what you mean. There's people I like talk to on like, I talk to Alicia on Zoom pretty often now, and we become friends, and I'm inviting her to my wedding, and that's going to be the first time I probably meet
Ooh,
her in
nice.
person, which is like weird, but like she's my friend, you know? So,
Uh,
yeah, it's
Absolutely.
been really nice. I feel like when you become an adult, it's also just hard, especially when you have like family and stuff. I'm sure just you get busy. It's hard to have friends as an adult. So it's so cool to like have these people who are into the same weird shit as me that are like so nice and so supportive of each other, and also just understand the struggle that is content creation. So it's been
Hmm.
really, really fun. And yeah, I'm excited.
Good, good. Um, well, everybody listening, that is the show. I really hope you check out Kaydra and her podcast. I like listening to it, and I'm 100% sure that you're going to like listening to it. But anyways, if you like today's episode, please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. I'd greatly appreciate it. If your catcher doesn't allow you to leave a review, you can leave one on the website, where the weird ones are podcast.com. That is also where you can get hot sauce, some merch. I have a lot of t-shirts like the one behind me. There's a hat like this. I have supplements and coffee as well, so check those out. Also feature a podcast of the month, a book of the month, and stuff like that on there. But again, I hope you guys all have a blessed week. And check out Kaydra. I really like it, so I 100% think that you're going to. So, but other than that, guys, you know the drill. Question everything and stay weird.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.
Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky. When the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day, make a wish.